I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
Today we're going to be talking about how to get into your ex's head.
Oy.
You know, you're thinking about your ex day and night in your dreams. You wake up, you're going to sleep. It's hard to stop thinking about them. And of course, we want them to feel the same way.
It can definitely become an obsession.
Yeah. But oftentimes, they're not feeling that same way because they've made a decision and they felt like they had all the power in that situation. So it's important to get some of the power back for yourself, okay? If you want your ex to think about you and wonder about you, you have to shift the dynamic, right? See, if they broke up with you and you were doing the begging and the pleading and all the manipulative behaviors like handwritten letters, grand gestures, there's nothing for them to wonder about. They know you still want them. They know they're not losing you. And when you do that, they're not going to sit there and have that separation anxiety because they know there's no reason to have it. You've solidified that you're going to be there waiting. So in order to get that power back and get them to wonder about you, you need them to become curious, okay? You need to be a mystery, and you want them to figure out how you feel, if you're forgetting about them, if you're moving on, if they're going to lose you. But the only way you're going to do that is if you go no contact.
And this is huge. A lot of people right after the breakup have the tendency to want to convince their ex. They think if we talk about it now, we can fix it. But that's just not how things work, especially when they're in a very stubborn mindset. Once they've made their decision, they're digging their heels in the sand saying, I'm not changing my mind. They're going to do whatever it takes to follow through with that decision at that moment. So then how do we deal with an ex who is so stubborn? We have to go no contact. And when I say no contact, I mean no reaching out whatsoever. No calling, no texting, no emailing. I've heard of people being blocked and trying to find other ways to contact their ex. And sometimes the ex replies in those other methods of communication and they think it's okay to continue. So this does not mean if they do reach out to you or send you a message that you ignore it. We're not suggesting no contact indefinitely. We're just saying let them initiate. Because they did the breaking up, they called the rules of the relationship. Unfortunately, they made a decision for the both of you, and you have to respect that.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to act like an adult, but at the same time, you have to be careful, okay? Ignoring them is not going to help repair things like an adult. And we do want you to act like an adult, but we want you to also be careful and love and respect yourself enough to be careful with somebody in this situation, okay? So, if you want them to get curious about you and reach out to you, give them the breakup, okay? At first, I know it looks like they feel like life is great without you, they're better off, they think that they're not gonna miss you, they're not as attracted to you, they're not feeling that strong connection that they did likely in the beginning, and, you know, they may think that there are a lot better options out there at that moment in time, right? So you may feel like you have to kind of sell yourself to them and, you know, say things like, oh, I've changed. We say that a lot. You know, when we feel that separation anxiety, we often want to do protest behaviors, you know, begging, pleading, crying.
I promise it will be different this time. You know, I promise this won't happen again. I'm going to treat you better. You're my forever person, all of that.
But that only turns them off more, okay? And you have to understand that people become selfish in a breakup, and for different reasons. Like, you become selfish in, I'm anxious, I want them back, but they're also becoming selfish in, I want autonomy and I need space. So you have to understand that when you are trying these protest behaviors, it only makes them more entrenched into their position and less likely to want to talk to you or hear from you.
Mm-hmm. So as I mentioned before, the very first thing on their mind is going to be just to get the breakup done and over with. For them, it's something that they've likely thought about for quite some time. They've probably dreaded telling you that they wanted the relationship to be over. And so you want to respect their plight into ending the relationship by giving it to them, as you mentioned before. So after they get through that initial, wow, I just did this, wow, I just ended a relationship that was significant in my life, then the person starts to relax a little bit. You know, they get this feeling that they do have their independence. They don't have to fight for it anymore. So it's this level of relief that they get after they've gone through with it. So at this point is when their anxiety can start to creep up again, because they realize the consequences of their decision, which is losing a connection with you. If you did have a significant impact on their life, that is a bond that you have both created together. And for us humans, we're hardwired to want that connection. That connection makes us feel safe. And so at the point where they realize, wow, I don't have that anymore, it can start to make them wonder, okay, what happened here? Where did this go wrong? What is my ex doing? Are they okay? Because likely you are somebody that they cared about on a very fundamental level.
The weird thing is that, and I know this is odd, they want you to want them, right? And you're like, what? They don't want me to want them because I want them and they don't want me. No, that's how they're going to present themselves. They want you to want them because that makes them feel safe, like they have the option to get you back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And what you're saying about that feeling of safety, if you continuously reach out to them or even to friends and family members and they find out about it, which, you know, eventually they will. People talk and word gets around, so I'd be extremely careful with stuff like that. But if they do find out that you're trying to contact them by any means, it turns off that feeling of safety. They know that you're there. They know that they can contact you. And so you really want to make them make that decision for themselves to rekindle the relationship and it not be something that you try to force.
Yes, it's going to be much more likely to turn around if you allow them to miss you on their speed and to reach out to you when they're ready. Mm-hmm. Now, we often tell you guys that if someone breaks up with you, to simply say that you understand, and that if they change their mind, to let you know. Okay? And you leave them be after that. A lot of people get scared though, and they ask me, should I reach out to tell them to call me if they change their mind? And they're afraid if I don't tell them to call me if they change their mind, they won't actually do it. But we're saying no. There's no reason to call somebody and tell them, let me know if you change your mind, if you couldn't do it or didn't feel natural at the time. You don't want to go back and say, I'm just calling to let you know. If you change your mind, let me know. Because that takes the wondering away, right? Like we're saying, we want them to wonder. And by telling them that, it takes away one less thing they have to think about or wonder about. So don't reach out to them and tell them that you're giving the breakup either. Because, again, that keeps them from wondering so much about what's going on.
And the same thing goes as far as telling that you're going no contact. A lot of people have this feeling that they need to tell their ex, I'm not contacting you anymore, just so you know. Stay away from that. At that point, they know that you're not contacting them because you're not contacting them.
Yeah.
There's no need to reinforce that.
And they'll wonder about it, right? Because if you tell them, I'm not going to contact you, then they're going to know, oh, well, they're not going to contact me. It's one less thing they have to wonder about. The ambiguity is helpful in this situation because they've ended this relationship. Okay? You want to stay centered. You want to stay confident. You have to focus on your mental health and getting to a good place because it's not easy when you're going through this. You really want to focus on your attachment issues and get to a healthy place. Thinking about, learning about, well, what is your attachment style? How did it impact the relationship? What is their attachment style? The more you understand that, the more easier it is to navigate your relationships. The Creative Healing course, the workbooks are all focused on helping you to get to a confident place in all your relationships. And, you know, as you're doing this and there's some time and space, it helps you heal and it helps them heal, often gives them some clarity that, you know, things weren't as bad as they were initially feeling, and they start to miss you. But now they're often afraid to reach out because they're afraid you're going to be angry or reject them. So what do? The indirect, direct approach, which is just an excuse to contact you. They don't know how to do it. They don't know what to say. So they look for a small excuse to contact you. We always hear, I miss the cat, or something about the cat.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous how often we hear it. But just look at it this way. It's a small bid to connect with you. But when they do, you got to stay calm. It would be very easy to lose it here and then just put all your cards out on the table.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I want to remind you, don't ignore an ex. And we will say it over and over again. Do not ignore them. As Craig mentioned, it is a bid for connection. They're just dipping their toes in just to see how you'll respond.
Yeah, because if you ignore them, there's a chance that they don't reach out again.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because they could be afraid.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you also want to think about what's the alternative here. The alternative would be, reaching out to them, seeing how they're doing, messaging them, calling them. And their response, especially in the beginning, it's not going to be very well taken. So you also want to consider the alternative. So if you do reach out, then what happens? I can tell you that in the beginning, exes really are not receptive to reach outs for the most part. And even if they are, it could be, just to be responsive to you because they care about you, but it's not going to change their mind about the breakup ultimately. Mm-hmm. And what messages are you sending just by messaging them? Not just the content of the message, but what is the greater meaning of you reaching out to them at all? Are they seeing now that you're not able to respect their decision? Are they seeing now that you're not able to be alone for a period of time or be without them? And so that comes off as very dependent on them, and that can cause them to feel guilty, and desire does not come out of guilt. I can tell you that much.
No, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. And you also want to be very careful about being vulnerable with them. You are going through so many emotions right now. Feelings of loss, feelings of grief, feelings of remorse, maybe for things that have happened in the relationship, nostalgia. There's so much going on inside of you right now. And your ex used to be that comfort person for you. Mm-hmm. It's 100% natural to feel like, I want to depend on this person for emotional support. At this time, you can't. And so I would be very careful about expressing any type of sadness to them or expressing your feelings. A lot of times you just want to get something off of your chest.
I miss you so much. Don't do it.
As cathartic as it might feel, do not press send. If it helps just to write out a letter and burn it after, crumple it up, put it through the shredder, whatever you need to do, but do not let them receive it. At this point, they have decided that the relationship is done. They have decided that they no longer want to be that emotional support for you. And as much as that sucks, you have to accept it. That is the respectful thing to do. And so you don't want to place that on them at this time.
Yeah. You don't want to expose yourself in a way that like you're vulnerable, and telling them how you feel about everything and letting them know they could still have you, it gives them so much information that it takes away the mystery, it takes away their anxiety, and now you're left feeling like, I've told them all this of how I felt, and now they don't care about me. Why did I do this?
And not saying that your feelings don't matter at this time. Of course they do. And of course this breakup is important. But I will say, unless they're willing to actually actively work on this relationship, sharing your feelings with them is not going to go anywhere. I think at the point where things do rekindle, then after some time, they will have to understand how this breakup has impacted you. But this is not the time.
No, this is definitely not the time to do that. They don't deserve to know everything. A lot of times we want to tell them everything. I've been feeling this and I've been feeling that. And even if they start to tell you those things about how they're feeling, you still want to play it cool, okay? They may say all these feelings and vomit all these feelings on you. You're like, wait, what? You're thinking all this and you miss me every day? but still stay calm. Don't overwhelm. Let them talk about missing you and have it their responsibility to repair this with you. You got to protect yourself. If somebody hurts you, you can't be as trusting with them, okay? Because they hurt you. And so you have to protect yourself. If you don't, they could hurt you again. And you don't know what their mindset is. Just because they're contacting you again doesn't mean that they necessarily want you back. You don't know if they're thinking about repairing this. Don't just assume that they are just because they're reaching out to you, or maybe they say a few things. Make them work to get you back, okay? Make them work to fix it with you, okay? You want to look confident. That's very attractive, no matter what happens. You don't want to look like you don't care if they're alive or dead, but you want to look like, okay, you're going through a tough time, but you're still in a confident place. It's very attractive to people.
And use your supports. You know, a lot of times we forget about the people around us when we're going through something difficult. We can tend to isolate, but I'm telling you that people around you, the people who love you, are going to be there for you. And so use those supports.
That's right. If you really want to get into their head, you gotta let them be a big part of the process to repair this. Don't rush. Don't be eager. Don't put all your cards out on the table. Don't tell them everything. You need to be a bit of a mystery here. And you have to do that for yourself, at the very least, just to protect yourself.
Exactly.
Right? Because you do so with anybody. Even if it wasn't a romantic person. If somebody, you know, did something to hurt you, you got to make sure that they care about you enough not to do it again, or to apologize and show sincerely that they care before you leave yourself exposed to them again.
And I would also say that the best way to get into their head is just to keep working on yourself and that personal growth. And we cannot emphasize that enough. I know it sounds cheesy and you guys are probably tired of hearing about it, but really, you know, when I think back even personally on my exes, when I did see them succeed, I thought, wow, they're doing so well. They could be with anybody. And that struck a chord of anxiety inside of me. You know, to think, wow, did I really miss out on this person who is willing to grow on themselves? They're, you know, going to therapy. They're doing things to make themselves a better partner. What am I missing out on?
Yep, absolutely. And they're going to be a lot more likely to think, wow, things could be different. The relationship could be different. Maybe we could work it out if you focus on those right things and not stay obsessed about, are they logging on their Facebook? All right? All right, so hopefully this one has been helpful to you. If you want to get our help personally, you can do that on our website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Of course, Coach Victoria is available for Skype coaching.
I'm here if you need to talk.
Just click on her name on the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.